Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to change the subject just slightly. I've learned that this fall, Crystal Cruises is going to be taking passengers on an unprecedented cruise through the Northwest Passage. This ship will be accompanied by an escort icebreaker and a dozen expedition experts. So, Admiral Michelle, I was going to just ask you, to what extent has the cruise line worked with the Coast Guard to ensure the success of this voyage? And we do know that the Arctic Circle it can be known to be a dangerous region due to the unpredictability of the ice and the sea. What contingency plans have been established in the event of an emergency to make sure that these passengers are safe?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we have been working with Crystal Cruise Lines here for a couple of years on this, and I think Crystal understands the challenges associated with this venture, which actually I think is going to occur next month in August. And we have not only been working with them, but also with the Canadian Coast Guard, with the Department of Defense, with local officials, and have mapped that out. That particular voyage, most of which actually is in Canadian waters. I think 85% of it or more is actually in Canadian waters, and the most treacherous parts are actually in Canadian waters. But we've bridged out and reached out to them. We did a tabletop exercise the last couple months and worked through all the issues on there on how you would get people out of there, how you would take care of the lifeboats, how you would utilize that very small, it's an icebreaker, but it's almost an ice management vessel is the way that they're going to use it. But Crystal Cruise Lines is, for example, they're taking on board ice pilots. They're getting the latest on the ice situation that's up there. We think they've done pretty good homework, but I don't want to underestimate the challenges of that area. There's almost no logistics up there. For example, if we needed to get another helicopter up there, they're only bringing very small helicopter with them. If we need to get a big helicopter up there, it's estimated to take between 15 and 20 hours, if the weather's good, in order to get that up there. Fixed-wing aviation may be available, but even there you've got very limited landing areas, very environmentally sensitive areas. Things change up there dramatically. Even during the summer, the weather is an incredible challenge. So this is not an easy category for a voyage, but I think we've done all the legwork that we can up front here, and we do have a responsible operator in Crystal who is taking a number of additional steps in order to ensure that they've got a safe passage.
Thank you. Well, I represent the Port of Los Angeles, and between Los Angeles and Long Beach, clearly we are the busiest cruise ship terminals, and that is a huge part of our economy and tourism in the area. So, you know, we've heard of late some tragic circumstances aboard cruise ships, even in calm and warm water. So this certainly is of concern. Ms. Connolly, I was going to ask you, just in your studies and what you're predicting, what's the future hold for tourism in the Arctic? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you. Well, we definitely see an increasing interest in some ways because the Arctic environment is changing so quickly. It's sort of creating a rush, if you will, to see this pristine environment while it's still in its current state. In conversations and in conferences that we've held at CSIS, where we've invited the cruise industry, they haven't necessarily seen a huge uptick. And in fact, I think the Crystal Serenity is is a real trailblazer in that. You know, as you've been noticing, the extensive media attention on that cruise itself, in addition to our Coast Guard colleagues that will be following it very closely, this may actually spur a great deal of interest. The price tag is enormous per passenger because of the extra safety requirements that they are needed. For instance, the Russian tourism industry has been using their Russian icebreakers to take cruises up to the poles, literally for quite some time. It's for that adventure ecotourism. So we're not seeing the numbers yet. It'll be interesting to see if the Crystal Serenity does, in fact, show a real uptick in interest in cruising the Arctic.
And Admiral, how much time and effort and resources does our Coast Guard expend for this specific cruise breakthrough of the Crystal Serenity?
Well, quite a lot, ma'am. This is the largest cruise ship that's ever going to go through this area, and by magnitudes, the largest number of people are going to go through this area. So we have been working extremely closely, like I said, not only with the cruise lines, but everybody else who has an oar in the water here on ensuring that we've got a safe voyage. So this has taken a lot of our time, and we take this very seriously. And I hope we always will, because that is a very treacherous area of the Earth.
And do we get compensated for that?
Ma'am, we don't charge people for those type of services. Those are Coast Guard responsibilities, the taxpayers.
Because it's interesting,
foot the bill
as
for
Ms.
the Coast
Conley
Guard.
pointed out, the passengers are paying, sounds like they're paying extra for extra security and some of the resources that you're so generously giving away.
I don't think we're, well, giving
I mean,
away-
that's our, I mean,
this-
that's
this
our
is what
core,
we do in the
your
Coast
core
Guard.
mission is, of course, to keep
Yes, ma'am.
people safe on the high seas, but it is kind of an interesting world we're getting into. And as we always talk here, your resources are always limited. We're always trying to make priority choices. Sort of like contract sheriffs, you know, they charge other cities for their services. It would be interesting to look at that model someday.
Yes, ma'am. And we like to invest the resources up front to prevent an accident from happening, because if you actually have an accident and respond to it, it's a lot worse situation. So I'd rather make the investment up front with the cruise line, see if we can buy as much risk down as possible.
Thank you very much. We hope it's successful.